or 8, 9, day 9, Saturday. So before I begin, I wanted to let you guys know that this day's vlog is technically, I don't know if that's cheating. If it is, I'm sorry, but that's because tomorrow's day is impossible to upload unless I'm up at like 3 a.m. because Saturday is going to be a really, really long day. There's Comic-Con, and then there's a birthday party, and then there's the after birthday party, and then, so I'm gonna be recording all of that. So what it ended up meaning is that that video is going to be the Sunday video. So it's going to kind of be like a little switcheroo of days, if that makes sense. Is that cheating? Let me know if that's cheating. If it is, it'll only happen when it's really busy, okay? That's all I'm saying. So today, since so many of you really, really liked the 7 of my least favorite craft items, I figured I would do my favorite 7. So these are not perfect, so I'm definitely going to let you know why I like them, and if there are flaws, what the flaws are. And the first one I'm going to start with is my trusty, it's not the brand, wax paper. So I don't know if many of you are here out of the blue, but I do have a craft channel, Nerdy Crafter, and I do clay. One of the most important things for my crafting is actually wax paper. I never craft without wax paper because if you use your clay straight on the table, what ends up happening is it gets stuck, or the color can transfer, or if it's really thin and you try to remove it off the table, then it's just a huge mess. So every time you guys see me use something under the clay, wax paper. So I highly suggest you get one of these. I think this was like $1, $1. It stays good for like a year. So I definitely also bake my stuff right on top of the wax paper because it prevents some burning as well. The next one. You guys see this a lot. And sometimes I don't even show it, sometimes I don't even show it on camera because I did mention it so many times and I don't like being a broken record. Since I work with clay, a lot of times, especially white and red and yellow, yellow, translucent too. When I'm working with clay, it gets so dirty. It gets so dirty. There's like specks of things. I don't even know how they got. How did black little specks come on my desk that I just cleaned? Cat fur, I understand. I carry cat fur on my shirt on a daily basis. But how does clay on a clean surface get those black little specks? And they're so weird too because I don't even know what they would come from. So yeah, if you ever want to keep your clay clean, I highly, highly recommend rubbing alcohol, which I got from the pharmacy. I think it was like $3 for this. And I'm nearing the end, but I've had this for 2 years. So it's not really a craft material. I mean, both of these things are not craft items, but they're so important to my clay crafting. So highly recommend this. I think if you don't have rubbing alcohol where you live, I've heard people say that nail remover, acetone, works the same. I haven't tested it, but I heard that it works the same way. So double check, make sure, because I don't have any experience with that. The next, actually, well, I don't know why this thing keeps rolling. Okay, you know what? We're gonna get this out of the way. My next favorite crafting thing, these are all, I'll put these all together. Hang on, let's get you zooming. So, pointy tools. I highly recommend pointy tools. So, I use this to smooth a lot of things. So if I have 2 pieces of clay that I want to put together, I end up kind of smoothing the ends with this. Because it's so rounded and pointy and slim, it doesn't leave as many marks as if you would use other tools, so silicone tools. I do work with really small pieces, and some people in the previous video also said that it's possible the reason why the silicone tools don't work with me is because I work with really tiny projects. So in that case, I highly recommend the pointy tool. These are not easy to find, so in that case, make your own. So this was before I had my own. So what I did is I took an actual needle. This is a needle, you know, the one that you sew with? So I took a needle, and I didn't need to make it this big, but it's easy. And then I just kind of shoved it in a piece of clay with liquid Sculpey, and it holds. So I made my own pointy tool. So it works really, I highly recommend if you can't find one, or if you don't want to pay for one, just take some of your scrap clay and do that. Or go to the dollar store and pick up some toothpicks. I was like, let's say Q-tips. Q-tips. Oh, I forgot that. That'll be the bonus. That'll be the bonus. Well, it kind of goes with the rubbing alcohol. Does it count? I would say they go together. They're like a pair, so make sure you have Q-tips too. But yeah, toothpicks. If you don't have a pointy tool, you don't have to pay money. That's the thing, is I know all these crafters and all these amazing sculptors have these huge tools and amazing expensive tools, but you don't need it. Honestly, I use my fingers more than anything, and probably the pointy tool. Those would be the biggest things that I would use for sculpting, because you need to smooth things in, and then your thumb. Your fingers work well for when you want to smooth things together. So I would put these together. These would be my good tools. I would not be able to craft without them. That's for sure. Next, now we're going into, actually no, we're not going to brands just yet. Paint. Sometimes you're like, what paint do I need? The two paints that I've used the most have always been acrylic, black, and white. All the other colors are just extra. But if you need to choose colors, I would say black and white are extremely important, because with black and white, you can create mouths, you can create eyes, you can also make a kind of antique look, although with brown it's smoother. So these two colors are super important. The only thing is that since I paint with them, I end up using the cap. So I don't know if you guys can see here. So I end up using the cap, which ends up blocking the top. So if I actually wanted to use it for, you know, painting, it's blocked. So I need to take a toothpick and yeah, do that. So black and white are my two favorite paint colors, because they're always used. They're actually, I actually technically don't even put them away. I leave them on my desk 90% of the time. If I'm feeling really adventurous and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna clean today, I'll put them back. And then the second I sit down to craft, I'm like, I gotta go pick it up. So I have to go pick them up. All right, now we're working our way into brands-ish, kind of. So since I said, in case, again, some of you are here not because of my main channel, I use, I keep dropping stuff. I use Sculpey clay. So polymer clay is great because you can get them in so many different shapes and sizes and colors. My favorite brand is Sculpey 3. See that little 3 right there? I've had this block for 3 years. Look how soft it is. So it's still pretty soft. And that's why I really prefer, no hate towards Fimo, but it was so funny because in the last video, I'm like, Fimo is just gonna give you like arthritis and it hurt like, and it crap. And the comments, you guys were agreeing with me. So I'm happy because I am not hating on anything. I'm just stating my own opinions. And again, these are my opinions. These are my opinions. If you don't like them, that's okay. It's totally okay. We can have different opinions and still like each other. So Sculpey 3. I've tried Primo, so I mean, Sculpey is not perfect. Sculpey 3 is great. I love Sculpey 3. If I can avoid Primo, I will. Because Primo is from the same company, but it's much harder. Not as hard as Fimo, but it is much harder. So what ends up happening is after, I would say, a few months, it starts getting crumbly, but it's easily fixed by putting baby oil. But if you can, just go for Sculpey 3. It's cheaper than having to buy the Fimo kits. Another thing that I can't get away with, I use in all my crafts. There we go. Liquid Sculpey. Liquid Sculpey is my most used with any project because pieces go together great. You're like, you know, pieces will go great together. You do need something that actually puts them, that keeps them together. So even if you put like a piece of wire in the head or anything like that, it may or may not stick because metal will not stick to clay unless there's some kind of adhesive. And yeah, liquid Sculpey does work as an amazing adhesive. I don't know why I feel like I keep getting close to the camera, so I feel like you guys can only see me down here. But yeah, liquid Sculpey for me is one of those things that I can't craft without because I'm so paranoid that pieces will fall apart. And many of you don't know this, but once upon a time, when my channel was very new, I used to have an Etsy. And sometimes my pieces would fall apart. And then I realized it's because they weren't sticking together because I was using Fimo, and Fimo is pretty hard. So when the pieces are not sticking together, you're sure that they're gonna fall. I have like cat fur. You're sure the pieces are gonna fall. So when I discovered liquid Sculpey, and they also have a Fimo version, Fimo liquid, I think. Very useful, highly mega recommend it. And yeah, get that one. Make sure you don't get the other bottle that is called, I think, this is translucent liquid Sculpey. I forget what the other one's called. I'll post it. Because when I first bought it, I bought the other one by accident because they look exactly the same. I can't remember, I think it was Bond and something. You'll see. I'll post it right there. The difference is the other one is much thicker. It's technically Sculpey Bond, but they're both used for the same thing. But the other one's much thicker. I find that this one, because it's so much thinner, it just works better. Trust me on that one. And the last one, which you guys have seen very often on my channel, it's not just clay that I do. So on my main channel, I also use resin. Epoxy resin. This is a 2-part resin. My favorite is 2-part resin. Now, I'm used to equal 2 parts. This is the Sophie and Toffee, which is 2 to 1. I really like the 2 to 1 ratio because it's so much more liquidy, which means that there are less bubbles. The biggest flaw of these bottles, though, is that they are kind of big caps. So if you have, what's it called? Like ketchup bottles? If you have ketchup bottles, you can empty it in, don't mix it, don't mix it. Empty them in individual ketchup bottles so that it's easier to control on the pour. Because what ends up happening is the more you pour with this actual bottle, and even though you wipe it, so I do wipe them, but they start kind of creating a crust around the rim. So this is the flaw of the bottle, not the actual resin, but the resin itself is great. Another one that I would recommend if you have a Michaels would be the Envirotex Light. That's the one I used for the longest time. The only issue with that one is that you have a tendency to buy it from the store already yellow. So be careful with that. I'll leave my resin crafting tips video in the comment section. So in case you're curious about resin, I give you like the full lowdown on resin. So these are pretty basic for my crafting. I need them. So I always have them on my desk. These things will not leave my desk unless I'm cleaning up and I'm ambitious. And then I bring them back right away. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you want more favorites? Do you want more least favorites? Or what else would you like me to tell you about the behind the scenes of things that I like or not so much? Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until then, I will see you in tomorrow's video.